I'm all too familiar with that as a Las Vegas Raiders fan, as is our guest right now, Q Myers from the Locked On Raiders podcast, ESPN Radio in Las Vegas. My guy, Q, it's good to have you on the show, my friend. How's everything over there in Vegas, and how ready are you not just to get the Super Bowl over with, but to get to draft time?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on the show. Congratulations on the show, first of all, man. It's always great to be on with you and catching up with you. And, yeah, man, I'm excited for Super Bowl Radio Row. I'm excited for the draft. I'm excited for the Raiders to find their head coach because, well, there's only a couple teams left that still don't have a head coach. So, yeah, man, it's exciting times here. The offseason has actually been a lot more exciting than the regular season was, as you know.
I think that we're going to feel that exact same thing with the Sacramento Kings very shortly. But Kayla and I were just talking, Q, about Joe Brady being hired as the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. He's staying in Buffalo. I know Joe Brady was one of the guys that was interviewing and in the mix for the Raiders job. What's your thought on the Raiders missing out on him? How have you heard about how much of like a top candidate that he was in their eyes? And who are they zeroing in on, if anybody?
Man, that's a great question. And for me, like Joe Brady and even Brian Daboll, to me, were more of offensive coordinator candidates than head coach candidates. Just my opinion, right? They could have been legit head coach candidates. And Daboll, I know he's still part of the mix, and he's going to be the Titans OC if he doesn't get the Raiders head coaching job. But to me, those guys never felt like real, true head coach candidates. So I'm looking at Clint Kubiak, who's, you know, the offensive coordinator there in Seattle, who's doing some really good things. We saw him over the weekend. Looked like he was in his offensive coordinator bag, just the way that he was designing that offense for Seattle, punching their ticket to the Super Bowl. And then Davis Webb, right, the passing game coordinator there in Denver. And he's very young. He doesn't have a whole lot of experience. He's been a guy that's always known he's wanted to be a coach. But, I mean, he's, like I said, 30. He's young, so he doesn't have the skins on the wall when it comes to being that guy. But at the same time, I feel like this is the opportunity that the Raiders may have to hire him a little bit early, as opposed to him all of a sudden being a name that's a little bit hotter, and then other teams are out there trying to compete for him. And I'm not trying to put him in the same category as Sean McVay, but that's what the Rams did with Sean McVay 9 years ago. They hired him before he was necessarily ready, and they knew that if they didn't hire him then, they weren't going to get him the next year. And so it worked out really well for them. Again, different category. He's not quite who Sean McVay was at that stage of the game, but that's kind of the same theory and thinking that I feel like the Raiders are doing in this coaching search right now.
Q Myers from Locked On Raiders and ESPN Las Vegas joining us on the Matt and Kayla Show. Yeah, we have heard this name, Q, come up in Davis Webb. And I think for people who don't follow the NFL intently, they might not know the name. Is it more so, Q, just, and you mentioned a little bit of it, but just because they're so badly needing to set the tone with the quarterback that they eventually hire there in Las Vegas, that they want to go specifically with a guy that's worked so much with QBs?
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes all the sense in the world. You know, they had Pete Carroll last, who's a defensive-minded head coach. I think they really want to go young and offensive-minded with the opportunity to help grow and groom Fernando Mendoza if and when they make him the number one overall pick, which we're all assuming that they're going to do. And, it's an opportunity for this organization to grow. Like, I don't think any of us have any thinking that they're one player away from all of a sudden being in the Super Bowl next year. Like, I don't see them as that team. I don't see them as a team that is even going to be fighting for the playoffs next year. I think it's a slow build, and I think the Raiders realize that. That's what GM John Spytek was talking about when he said that I don't expect this to be an overnight success. I expect this to be a build. And so if you get a younger coach like a Davis Webb, you give him a 5-6 year deal, you allow him to let this thing grow and grow with the quarterback. You have some nice things around the quarterback already and Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty and Colton Miller on the offensive line and JPJ. But, what else do you need? And so you have a chance. You have $100 million in salary cap space. You can put together an offensive line. You can put some weapons around them, but you have to have patience as an organization to allow this to build, and you have to have someone who can develop. And Davis Webb can develop. He's helped Bo Nix a lot in Denver. And look, when Sean Payton interviews him, and then he starts to head back to the airport, and Sean Payton sends a car and is like, no, go get him before he hits the airport. We don't want him talking to anybody else. I think that goes a long ways for what this guy means to at least the Denver organization, what Sean Payton saw in him.
Q, it's funny, while the New England Patriots are back in the Super Bowl and getting ready to play at Levi Stadium, for Raider Nation, it's in Tom Brady we trust. How involved in your, is it really just this is the Tom Brady era, this is Tom Brady's time, that he firmly is going to be the decision maker, the one influencing these final decisions. And how should Raider Nation, I guess, feel about that, knowing the name Tom Brady, but not the executive Tom Brady?
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, nobody knows what he could bring to the table as an executive, and everyone keeps, and I mean, this is national people, all kind of different people are saying, trust Tom Brady. He's going to make it. He's the greatest of all time. He's going to figure it out. I was like, what makes you say that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand where that comes from, that he's going to figure things out when he's never done it. Look, I'm from the era that Michael Jeffrey Jordan was the greatest basketball player to ever play, right? And we can have the argument all day. That's fine. I don't care. The point is that he was a terrible owner. He was a terrible talent evaluator. He couldn't put together a basketball team to save his life, but he could jump out the gym. So you know what I mean? So I don't know, just because you were the greatest of all time means that you can do it. And on top of that, guys, he has a Fox job that he's doing. He's calling the games. He's on the call for the championship game while interviews are being taken place for the head coach. So how involved is he if he's there in Seattle while here in Vegas there's interviews going on? And I've used this analogy, and some people understand it, some don't. You can't be a weekend dad. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think in this position you can pick up little Johnny on Saturday, take him to pizza and a movie, and then drop him off on Sunday night, and then, hey, Mom, all right, you deal with them all week throughout the week. Like, that doesn't work. I think you have to be always present. You have to be there and let it be known what your role is. And I've heard through the grapevine that some of the candidates that have interviewed for this job still don't know who's in charge in the building, and I think that that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a great point. Q Myers joining us of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Q, let's go back to the offensive line, because clearly you've got to start building for Fernando Mendoza. And I know there was a lot of talk about the line last year. Was it not coached properly? Obviously, Brendan Carroll, Pete's son, was coaching it. A lot of people not happy with what he did. How fixable, or what is, I guess, the timeline to fix the line?
I think that's got to be the number one priority when they hit free agency. I mean, honestly, Colton Miller he's solid at the left tackle position. He's getting a little bit older, so at some point you have to start planning for the future when it comes to him. You have Caleb Rogers, who they drafted last year, and Charles Grant as well. They haven't defined what their role is going to be, but I think that they could be part of the solution. Jackson Powers-Johnson has to stay healthy, and he hasn't proven to do that even going back to college, so there's questions there. And I think that they need to go into free agency and get at least 2 guys, maybe 3 guys on that offensive line. But see, that's the beauty of it. I've heard all these people tell me, well, they can't get a quarterback right now because they don't have an offensive line. And I was like, you do realize the draft's not till April. Yeah. You do realize that free agency is in March. They can go address that. They can spend some of that $100 million that they have in salary cap space and go and try to get their offensive line and have it in place before Fernando Mendoza is even drafted. So as much as it looks like a problem and that they have to do a lot of heavy lifting and figure things out to put Mendoza in a better position, it can be done. Again, I'm not saying that they're going to be a Super Bowl team if they go and get that done, but it's part of the solution and part of the building process. So I think it can be done, but they just have to prioritize that offensive line as soon as free agency hits.
Q, this Raiders fan can't go anywhere and have a conversation about the number 1 pick without some jerk bringing up Jamarcus Russell or anything like that. And I know that's the looming shadow that we can never escape. We believe that Fernando Mendoza is the furthest thing from that. But there is that feeling, and I'm sure you felt this or dealt with this too. Like, how are the Raiders going to Raider this up? The Raiders can't possibly Raider this up, right? Is there any potential scenario where Fernando Mendoza is not walking across that stage wearing a Raiders hat, whether it's a trade or they decide to throw a curveball and draft somebody else? Like, the Raiders can't possibly Raider this up. It's Mendoza, and don't overthink it, right?
That's how I think. I feel like that it's definitely that. Now, I've had people have hit me with the argument that, well, what if some team offers 3 or 4 first-round picks like the Jets? I don't honestly think that's realistic. I really don't. I don't think that a team that's sitting at the number 2 spot is going to give up all those assets. Now, if they were to offer 3 first-round picks or 4 first-round picks, whatever, they have 5 in the next couple of years, then, I mean, you have to think about it. You have to decide what you're going to do. And if Fernando Mendoza is the guy that you're in love with so much that you're willing to pass on all that draft capital. But I'm with you. I think you keep it simple, stupid, and you just draft Mendoza and move from there. Right? That's just what I think. But we all know it's only January. There's going to be so much conversation back and forth until the draft at the end of April about why they shouldn't do this, why they should pass on him. They're going to go through the combine, the underwear Olympics, and you know how that is. They're going to be telling everything that he can't do and he can do, and well, he's not that great, and I would have him in the third round. I mean, those conversations are already being had, so there's going to be a lot of debate back and forth. But I'm with you 100%, man. Fernando Mendoza makes all the sense in the world. They haven't had an opportunity to get a real franchise quarterback since they sat Derek Carr down without a plan on how to replace him. And so now's your opportunity. You just had a 3-win season. It was awful. Reward yourself for it and go get your quarterback. Don't overthink it and just move forward.
Locked On Raiders and ESPN Las Vegas' own Q Myers joining us. You know, you talked about the face of the franchise, and hopefully that can be Fernando Mendoza moving forward, because really in the last few years, it's been a guy like Max Crosby, right? When we think of the Raiders, we talk about Max Crosby. I guess, how great has it been to have such a guy that is prideful and he is true and tried to the silver and black?
Yeah, Max is great. Love everything about him, especially his work ethic, the way that he continues to show up and show out. And, we saw the end of the season where he was angry because he was sat down. That just shows that he wants to play. And I've always said it that I'd rather have a guy that I have to, try to reel him in as opposed to a guy that I got to push to be better, right? I mean, it's much easier to say, hey, man, slow it on down a little bit, as opposed to, hey, man, I need some more. Max, a former 4th-round pick, a guy that we all saw on Hard Knocks that, broke his hand in a preseason game, was like, oh, my gosh, I'm going to get cut, wrap my hand back up, let me get into the field, get back out there, a guy that's gone through trials and tribulations off the field, the whole rehab and now as a father. And I just love what his story is and what he's brought to the table. And, oh, by the way, he's one of the better players across the National Football League, so that helps as well. But, yeah, I mean, if the Raiders could have two guys, have a guy on defense in Max Crosby and a guy on offense at the quarterback position in Fernando Mendoza that Raider Nation could get behind, that's only going to help out the fan base in a major way and help out Allegiant Stadium in a major way as well. So you don't see as many off-brand jerseys, red Chiefs jerseys, orange Bronco jerseys, or whatever team is coming into the building. You'll see a bunch of Mendoza and Crosby jerseys, and I'm here for that.
Q Myers is the host of the Locked On Raiders podcast and a radio host at ESPN Las Vegas Radio. And Q, I know you're not just a Raider guy, you're a football guy. So what do you think of this? It's been a crazy season. I'm not going to lie to you. I was celebrating a little bit that the Denver Broncos didn't make it to the Super Bowl. I'm not even going to front. But what do you make of this Patriots-Seahawks Super Bowl matchup at Levi Stadium here in the Bay, the former home of the Raiders? Not exactly, but you know what I mean. What do you make of this matchup?
Well, I look at Seattle, and that defense is just incredible. I like the fact that it's a rematch to, the Super Bowl that was when they weren't smart enough to hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch off at the 1-yard line. So I'm happy for them for that. I'm impressed by Seattle, 2 years with Coach McDonald, and they're already in the Super Bowl. First year with Sam Darnold. And I got to give the Patriots props, too. I mean, the first year with Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels as OC, second year with Drake May, boom, they're in the Super Bowl. So, again, it gives hope to, I think, other franchises that if you make a bunch of right decisions, you can get things turned around. But I think that Seattle defense is just too much. They might have already played their toughest game this year in the Rams 3 times, right, as opposed to this Patriots team. I think that they're going to overwhelm Drake May with their defense, and that's going to be the key to Seattle securing the victory. So I'm looking at the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl. I'm excited to see how it all plays out. I'm sure it's going to make some twists and turns along the way, but I'll tell you what, man, I'll be glad to be back in the Bay. That's my home, and so we'll be there for a Radio Row all week long and leading up to it. And I know that the game's not going to be played necessarily in the Bay. I mean, Santa Clara is whatever, call it what you want, but it's all good, man. Just to have an opportunity to be back in the Bay Area is going to be a lot of fun.
Hey, Q, we're seeing a situation, and we've seen it with a couple quarterbacks resurrect their careers lately. And There's so much pressure on these young NFL quarterbacks to get it right away. The reality is a lot of them aren't going to do that right away. They have to have pieces that surround them that can help that. Sam Darnold's journey has been pretty incredible, and he's kind of resurrected his career. In saying that, I think how important is it for the league to start realizing we can't just give up on these QBs after 2 years. Rather, we've got to surround them with better parts.
Yeah, no, I think that's the biggest key for sure. And I think that even goes back to the Raiders and what they're about to do with Fernando Mendoza. And this is something Tom Brady has mentioned before. He's not a big fan of rookie quarterbacks starting. He doesn't think that it's good to go ahead and just throw them out there and put them in the deep end and let them try to sink or swim, because a lot of times they'll sink and they might not be able to come back from that. And so if you have an opportunity to not put them out there right away, that's an ideal situation. And, it goes back to what teams need to have to put these players in good position. They've got to have a supporting staff around them. They've got to have weapons. They've got to have players that can, help elevate their game. And they have to have an organization that's patient enough to allow them to grow. And they're going to have mistakes. Like, look what happened with Bryce Young. He came in, started, got benched, and came back. And now he's playing good ball. And the Panthers were in the playoffs this year. So it can happen, but you have to understand the organizations have to be more patient. The problem is that we all live in a microwave society now. It's 60 seconds and everything's supposed to be done. And that's not reality. And that National Football League's not built like that. But coaches don't have a long time. Look how many coaches the Raiders have gone through in the last handful of years, like 5 or 6 in less than 6 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. So there's no patience there. And so that's part of the problem. If any organization could start to understand that, I think this will be in a much better place. But, yeah, I mean, kudos to these quarterbacks who found a way to stick in it and hang around the league and find a way to get back, on track, like Sam Darnold, who a lot of people still have trust issues with, including myself.
Me too.
I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, but that's because we're trained to know that he's not very good from everything that we've seen.
Yep.
Q, you're my guy. You know that. I need your help helping me manifest. My football team is the number 1 overall pick. I need my basketball team and the Kings to have it at the same time. So work your magic over there in Vegas to help make that a reality, my guy, okay?
Hey, man, I got you. I got to come to Sacramento and hang out with you guys, man. Congratulations on the new show. I'm really happy for you guys.
I appreciate it. We'd love to see you. I'd take you to a Kings game, but I want you to have a good time.
No, that's right.
I appreciate you, boss. We'll talk soon. Keep up all the good work over there. Enjoy Radio Row and enjoy the Super Bowl stuff. Hopefully we see you down there. And I look forward to your coverage of the NFL draft, the new head coaching search, and beyond, my guy. So be good. We'll talk soon.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Q.
I love Q. Q Myers, the phenomenal host of the Locked On Raiders podcast from ESPN Las Vegas Radio as well.